In case you didn't hear that, we are going to be recording today, um, just so that you are aware of that. And this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel this afternoon. So if you would like to go back and rewatch it or share the video with your coworkers or connections, feel free to do so. If you haven't already introduced yourself in the chat box, please introduce yourself. We're happy to have each of you with us, and we won't take time out of the meeting to actually do a verbal introduction of everyone so that we can respect your time today. We ask that you all remain on mute for the entire presentation. And if you have any questions or comments, just to drop them in the chat box. We'll be monitoring that throughout the webinar, and we'll do some Q&A at the end. Oops, sorry about that. I want to let you know of some things that are coming up. Before I do that, I want just to introduce myself in case any of you don't know me. I think I know most of you, but I am Melissa Vance. I am the president and CEO here at the Chamber of Commerce. And we have Lynette Davis and Daniel Arthur on with us today as well, who are a part of our staff and will be helping monitor things as well. Upcoming, we have Coffee with Hype. This is a brand new event that we're going to be doing monthly, and it's an opportunity for young professionals. If you are age 40 or under, or somewhere in that vicinity and want to be called young, come have some coffee with us in the boardroom. We're just gonna chat, talk about what Hype is, what they're doing, hear what kinds of things you'd like to see from this group to help young professionals grow and thrive. So if you or any of your employees or coworkers or friends are in that age range, we encourage you just to have them stop by and have some coffee with us March 7th at 10 a.m. here in the chamber office. Lynette, would you like to talk about the anniversary celebration?
I sure would. Thank you, Melissa. We have the annual Chamber anniversary celebration coming up very soon. It's going to be on Thursday, March 17th. 5:35 start time, and this is in recognition of chamber members who have reached a milestone anniversary as a chamber member. So that's like a 5-year, 10-year, and so forth. Those chamber members have been notified that they will be receiving a small token of appreciation for being chamber members and are invited to the event. But the event is open to the public as well. Tickets are $10 each. I'm putting the link in the, I think the link went in, hopefully. I'll get the link in the chat here, but tickets are for sale, and be sure to wear your green if you come to that event on St. Patrick's Day.
You know, we used to do monthly networking events, and because we've added so many additional things, we don't do the monthly networking events any longer. We try to do them at least quarterly, usually 5 or 6 times a year, but this definitely falls in that category, and it's a great opportunity to meet new people, enjoy some refreshments. It's very casual atmosphere, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So we hope you make plans to come and bring some folks with you. Our Issues and Advocacy Committee has been talking over the last couple years a lot about how we create a culture of community and a welcoming community, and we want to make sure we're doing that. And often our businesses that, especially the ones that don't have large corporate umbrellas that kind of drive some of these initiatives, they just don't have the tools in hand to be able to move some priorities forward. And we want to make sure that you have that. So this series that's coming up and starting March 24th is going to inspire you. In the first one, Daryl Gordon from Wordly has written a book, and he's going to be talking about diversity and how to include that in your organization. And then on April 28th, we're going to have Dr. Benji Parker do implicit bias training. He has done that for several groups in the area. Our chamber and the United Way partnered together to do a pilot with him last year. Very good. It talks all about just the biases that we all have, and we don't even really take time to stop and think about it and how the brain works. It's very, very interesting. And I think it's well worth your while to attend. And then on May 24th, we will wrap up with a speaker from Belden out of Portland, Oregon. This person flew in for our business summit last year, held a session about how to build diversity in your organization from the ground up. And it was one of our greatest feedback sessions of the summit. And we invited her to come back and do this. So you're going to be inspired. You're going to learn the why, and then you're going to learn the how. And you can sign up for one or all three, but we really encourage you to do the entire series. And Lynette, I believe, put that link in the chat box as well. Then we have this little or not so little event coming up. April 1st, it's been rescheduled. It is our annual dinner. We chose to postpone it due to the high COVID numbers in January, but we are so excited that our county is now feeling some relief from COVID, and it's not a joke. We really are doing this on April Fool's Day. We might have a little bit of fun with it that night. You never know. But Wayneopoly is all set and ready to go, and going to be a fabulous night. We have a handful of seats left. This sells out. If you want to go, we highly encourage you, get your tables now. Register online. If you have any questions, reach out to Lynette and she can help you through that process. We have a survey out right now asking for feedback from our members and employees of chamber members. And we'd like just to hear some of your feedback about what we're doing, about what you'd like to see and what your needs are. So please, if you haven't already, take time to do that. It's very helpful for us. And in April, on the 21st, we're having a hiring fair. This is different than the career fair that we just had. That was more career exploration. The hiring fair is specifically for seniors that are graduating with no post-graduation plans. We want to get them connected with an employer and a job before they graduate. We want to keep them in Wayne County. We want to get them on their feet and ready to move into their career if they're not headed into college. So if you are an employer and you would like to be there and recruit, we do short, we call them speed interviewing, but really it's short introduction times. You get 10 minutes with multiple students throughout the day and get to chat and then figure out if you mutually, if you'd like to follow up afterwards. So we encourage you to participate in that. And then our big senior celebration, where we will give away lots of prizes, including a car or a scholarship to one senior with perfect attendance, is May 5th. This event is huge. It's fun. It's celebratory. If you've never been to it before, join us, come out, see what it's all about. You can see information online. And then if you know of seniors that have perfect attendance, encourage them to continue down that path. It's well worth the while. And if you'd like to help sponsor this event, we make no money from this. It's not a fundraiser for us in any way. It's just our way of encouraging those soft skills that we want to see in the workforce later. With that, thank you again for attending today. If you have joined us since I started talking and haven't yet put your name and your organization in the chat box to do a quick introduction, please do that now so we can know who you are. And I'm very excited about this topic. I think it's something that all of us need to be thinking about. Unfortunately, there are things that happen that we don't plan for, but if we have a plan in place ahead of time, we know what to do. And that's important. So thank you for being a part of this. And I want to thank Sheriff Rutter for being with us and helping to provide this content and let you introduce your guests. So Sheriff Rutter.
Thank you very much, Melissa. And I want to say, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to stay for this entire presentation, but Sergeant Adam Blanton who's going to be hosting this presentation and providing you with the information today, is an expert on this subject matter, and is going to do a great job for you. So about 25 years ago, when I first came on to the Wayne County Sheriff's Office, one of the very first specialized responsibilities that I had was in crime prevention. And I came to understand and believe in the value of ensuring that our job was not just simply to come in and investigate crimes after they happen, but it was really to prevent crimes from happening if we could, to be proactive and to make sure that the citizens that we see every day don't become victims. And that became something that was incredibly important to me. So as I became sheriff, one of the focuses that I had, an initiative that came from that, was our threat assessment and threat management team. We have a couple of great officers on that that has really knocked it out of the park with this. We've had a number of instances where we've used this program to go in and take a look at some information that we've gathered and determine whether or not the threat that's presented is something that we can intervene in, and whether that be through a criminal interdiction intervention or through a mental health intervention. Our focus is trying to find the best solution we can to prevent the crime from occurring before it does. Adam Blanton and Brandon Crofta are both on this team, and they've used this from anywhere from preventing acts of school violence, such as a school shooting incident, to one of the most recent was a situation where one of our registered sex offenders was actively stalking a female in our community, and we've now got him incarcerated before he actually committed an act of violence. But we also understand that sometimes we're not able to stop the acts of violence before they occur. And we want to be able to provide you with information that we can to be able to protect yourself in the event that an act of violence like this is actively occurring, because it's our goal, it's my goal. If I can't prevent the victims from being there to begin with, is to minimize the impact that these acts of violence have on our community. So with this information that's going to be provided to you today, I hope that you will take this back to your businesses. I hope that you will plan for your own business how you can actively minimize your opportunity to become a victim, and if you do, how you can minimize that impact. I want you to also know that we are reaching out to businesses throughout our community and to help them develop these programs, help them train their staff and employees, and try to get this information out to you, because the best thing that I can do for you in my position as sheriff is to help you not become a victim. We can investigate all the things all day long, and we do a really good job at that, but I can do a better job if I can prevent you from becoming a victim. So with that information, I'm going to turn this over to Sergeant Adam Blanton. Again, he's an expert in this field. He has a tremendous amount of credentials. Very proud to have him on my team, and I will let him talk a little bit about himself, introduce himself, and present this program. Thank you for having us today.
Thank you, Sheriff Ryder. I hope everybody can hear me okay. I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So my name is Sergeant Adam Blanton with the Wayne County Sheriff's Office. Throughout this entire time here, I've done a lot of different things. Some of you may recognize me from the time that I also have Canine Ozzy. So if you ever see my little fur buddy running around, that is my other half and potentially my better half in law enforcement. So as far as that goes, just a little bit about me. I just want to provide a little bit of background information about me. I was lucky enough to work underneath Sheriff Ryder and approach him with this concept that is now we're kind of building and taking nationwide, and that's threat assessment, threat management. Now, in this kind of group, there are a variety of things that we do. There are a variety of things that we can do. So it doesn't just necessarily go from the vetting and investigating of threats. We also do physical building security. We help to ensure that policies are solid, that provide least amount of liability to an agency or to a business or whomever else, while providing a maximum amount of security to them. So we also, like I said, work within the schools and the school resource officers to prevent violence before they happen. So a little bit about me. I am a task force officer. What that means is I'm a part-time, I kind of help out with the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, out of the Indianapolis field office. I am a liaison to the Behavioral Analysis Unit and the Behavioral Threat Assessment Center. So if you think about it, if you've ever watched Criminal Minds on TV, that's kind of along the lines of what we're doing. Now, it's nowhere near that cool. We're not going in and doing anything real crazy, but the profiling part that you see, or actually picking apart those behaviors, that part is real. So while it makes it look like it's glamorous, it's really a lot of kind of nerd work. So I'm also a Department of Homeland Security master instructor in the National Threat Evaluation and Reporting Program. And I'll tell you more about that as we go. I'm a board certified workplace violence threat specialist. And I also am Association of Threat Assessment Professional Chicago chapter, we call the Great Lakes chapter, member as well. So got a lot of different things that we do, whether it's active shooter and soft target recognition. My partner in this is Patrolman Brandon Crofta. He's not able to be here today, but again, Brandon carries a lot of the same credentials that I do. He's also a veteran SWAT operator, and he's been around quite a bit. Today he's in another training, so he was not able to join me today. So I want to get kind of started. I want to kind of get into what this is, and excuse me. For us today, what I want to do is I want to provide a definition to you of targeted violence. And what we call targeted violence is violence with an intent, violence with an intention. And whether or not that is what you would think of or what you've read on TV as an active shooter, maybe someone who's done some act of violence to a group. And that's really what we're looking at. So the definition that we use straight out of the FBI's handbook is that targeted violence is anything that represents a form of violence that is directed at an individual or group for a specific reason. So, terrorism kind of falls under that. But when we think about terrorism and we really reduce it to its most simple state, what it is it's someone who has designed violence to be done to someone for a specific reason. That's it. That's what it comes down to. So when we think of it, we think about, either these big domestic terrorist groups or, ISIS or whatever else. But in reality, when we think of terrorism or we talk about terrorism, it's really that simple. It's someone who is going to hurt someone else for maybe a perceived injustice or whatever else it is. So that's kind of one of the things that I want to talk to you about today. And I really want to get into that. So this here is from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It's a graph, as you can see, and it shows that over the course from the year 2000 to the year 2018, the number of targeted violence events that we've had. Now, one thing you'll see is that these numbers do wax and wane, and that 2018, which was really probably the last statistical year that we had on file or we have the data amassed for at this point in time, shows that we had roughly 27 incidents in a year. Now you hear that and you can look at it two ways. You can say, man, that's a lot. Or you can say, well, 27, that's not as bad as I would have thought it would be. That's not as bad as I could have thought. 27 times a year means that roughly twice a month, bi-monthly, there is an active shooter, an incident where someone is going in and hurting someone else somewhere in the United States. Twice a month, this is happening. And as you can see, there's the numbers continue to climb. And we do see an increase in this. So it's important for me to sit there and say that you do see it on TV a lot, and we hear about it a lot. And it sometimes seems like it's all around us. And that's for good reason, because these are kind of profound or prolific things that happen to us. But I want you to also see that 27 times is in 2018 is what we're looking at. And that can seem like a nominal number, but when you consider the damage that's done, when you consider the wrecking of a community, or the dismantling or leaving you to not feel safe, which really is one of the greatest probably sins that a person who wanted to inflict harm could commit, is to take your ability to feel safe away. We're seeing this somewhere in the United States happening, roughly every 2 weeks, twice a month. So breaking that down just a little bit further, since the year 2000, so 2000, 2018, data numbers are always behind, but this is kind of the most recent we have. There's been 277 incidences of targeted violence. Over 2,400 people have been killed or wounded. 884 were killed in 277 incidents, and the 1546 were going to be the wounded. So imagine how many that number touches if we get into the periphery. So I like to compare, an active shooter, targeted violence. I like to compare it in this day and age. Sadly, I like to compare it to almost cancer. Everyone knows someone or has been impacted in some way by someone who's had cancer. They've seen the ugliness of that disease. They've either battled it and won themselves or succumbed to it. Whatever it is that you see, it's something that in the United States of America and abroad, we understand, and its fingertips are long. So when we look at this and you think about 884 people who have died, imagine the fingertips or the spider web that kind of puts out there for the individuals. Almost 1,600 wounded. That's an incredible number that touches so many people. So we're really starting to see this, that no matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing, in some way, somehow, even a community like Wayne County has been touched by something like this. So one thing, again, I'm a visual learner. So I always like to kind of say, like, Adam, why is this important to me? Adam, why does this matter to me? We get this notion a lot of times that, well, education is kind of the place that it happens. Education is where it happens. We hear about school shooters, whatever else it is. Well, per this graph of the data that I showed you, almost half of the time it's a place of commerce, whether it's a place of business. And you'll see here where it kind of differentiates and says businesses closed to pedestrian traffic. Think about like the Indianapolis FedEx shooter. So again, it's a place of commerce. However, it's not really open to pedestrian traffic. So still business, warehouse. It's still an area of commerce. And again, you look at probably one of the next larger, things that are on there, and we kind of start getting into, the educational realm, and not so much institutions of higher learning or college, but really those K through 12 schools. Now, one thing I like to point out when I look at a graph like this is to say that when we look at this and we see this education number at 20.6, or if we look at pre-K through 12, 15.2, the number's beginning to diminish. Because one thing that we see or are starting to see with schools are that schools oftentimes are really keeping their doors shut. They're improving their security, hardening their exterior, their visitor policies, the whole 9 yards on a regular basis. I always tell people this: if you were sitting at home, or you were out and about, or maybe you had to go to your child's school, if you saw someone who was interesting to you, and I won't use a disparaging term, but interesting to you, sitting around or being in that area, how long would it take for you to call 911 or to call the police or alert someone? Relatively no time at all. How about if you saw someone strange at Walmart? How long would it take? Would you even call? So those are things that I like to keep in mind and just kind of, keep in your memory to kind of jog these things. And I like to say that, empirical data and scientific data has showed us that, again, this is some of that psychological phenomenon that we're looking at. Schools are doing a good job. They're locking their doors. They're doing certain things. They put things in place. Areas of commerce, maybe we can't necessarily do that, or maybe it seems uninviting, but it's not the cultural norm. And that's why we see that number inflating. So what I want to talk about with targeted violence is who is the target. So a lot of times we hear this kind of notion that, oh, this person has a hit list, or, oh, I wasn't on their hit list. I was nice to them. So maybe they don't want to mess with me. Well, empirical and statistical data show that whether you're on that list or not, it doesn't matter. A typical event is random and it happens rapidly. You can go back to case studies that occurred back in whether it was in Kentucky or Jonesboro, Arkansas, talking about individuals like Kip Kinkle or those kind of people of our past who merely said, when I went in there, I didn't mean to shoot my friend. Actually, the ones that have survived, they come back to tell us, I had no idea. I just started pulling the trigger. The target is more of an idea than it is a person. The target is more of an idea than it is a face. So when we go into these certain things, no one is any more or any less likely to have this thing happen. It's an opportunistic thing. A shooter is going to take and damage as many things as they can. The goal for them is to commit as many murders as possible, which allows them to have infamy. It allows them a platform to get their name out and things like that, and to get their ideologies out. So again, one of the things that we do with our threat assessment, threat management team, and we will come in to your business or to your school or wherever it is and provide training and do those sort of things. We'll talk about how to really profile these kind of behaviors, how to understand these behaviors more. Now, I know we have limited time today, and for the sake of doing this, I can be quite a talker. So I'm going to hurry up. But again, we are so fortunate, and I say this and I mean this because we're fortunate with Sheriff Rader to allow us to have so many of these things. Recently we just got done doing schools. We went into each school, performed safety audits, and took care of every building, went through everything my partner Brandon and I did. Which allowed them to get a grant. It's called a secured school grant. And they were able to get collectively through Wayne County hundreds of thousands of dollars in grant money from us being able to do that, which is a free service that was provided by Sheriff Rader. Just to put an idea on it, to do a school system the size of Richmond Community Schools, to hire a private contractor to come in and do the same thing we did, you're looking at a ballpark of $75,000 to $100,000. So again, I will put my little sales pitch in here a few times, but again, I cannot tell you how important and how awesome the initiatives that we have here that Sheriff Rader provides free of charge to our community are. So we talk a little bit about the target, and now let's talk about time. So shots on average, now this is more of a general rule of thumb. There's so much data out there that exists that we can break down and look at, but on average, one shot is fired every 4 to 15 seconds. Now, I'm going to break that number down a little bit more, and I'm going to tell you that as I'm also a Force Science Institute certified analyst for use of force and those sort of things. And we see, and we have studied, there are studies that exist that show that a gun can be fired at a quarter of a second. That is as long as it takes to get a round off. And you can fire in a cadence of consecutive shots at 0.25 seconds. So again, while that number 4 to 15 is really the general rule of thumb that I want to give you, just know that depending on their skill level, the intent, the passion, whatever else it may be, the type of gun, those rounds can come off much, much, much quicker. So we get into this next part where we kind of think, well, time is our friend. We're going to call 911. We're going to, the SRO, we're going to call our security guy, whoever it is, security gal, whatever it may be. Almost 70% of active shooter events end in 5 minutes or less. very, very few. And I don't care if it's, even if you live, even if you work or live directly within the, center part of Wayne County, you live in the city of Richmond, 5 minutes is an incredible amount of time for a response time for a call to be dialed, to go to dispatch, for dispatch to tell us, and for officers to arrive on scene. Okay, that is an incredible amount of time. So even more of these, or excuse me, even less of these have had even quicker times, where almost 37% or over a third of these in 2 minutes. Average all law enforcement response time is 15 minutes. Now I'll tell you, our response time is generally much better than that in the Wayne County community, but that's at average. So that's where we really want to work at. That's the law, kind of the law of averages that we want to be into. A typical attack occurs between the times of 8 and 4, 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. Makes a lot of sense when you think about it. These are the busiest times for businesses. These are the busiest times that things are going on. This is when, the most employees are in one place, the most traffic is in one place. If it's schools, this is when school's in session. And again, it all kind of goes back to that, hey, I want to make and commit as much damage as humanly possible. Well, if I'm going to do that, then I'm going to isolate those times where I'm going to have an increased likelihood of being able to do that. So the next thing I want to do is I'm just going to show you a little video, if you will. And I don't know who remembers this or doesn't remember it, or maybe you're not familiar with it, but in August of 2019, an individual went to the Oregon District, which is a familiar place within the city of Dayton. It's a fun area to go, and whether it's different bars and experience diversity and those sort of things, it's a great place to go. Well, on this day in August, this individual perpetrated a act of targeted violence. Now, in this one here, it does have some video to show you. There is a little bit. It's not overly graphic, but again, it is somewhat sensitive. But I want you to see here that the individual who perpetrated this attack, and I don't say his name for a reason, you will hear it, but I won't say his name for a reason, is in 32 seconds was the response time. The individual who was shooting in this, the perpetrator, was essentially or basically at the point to where he was terminated. He was no longer able to fire upon. The threat had ceased in 32 seconds. That is amazing. It happened to be police officers just standing just on the other side of the corner working a security detail and got it. In that amount of time, he was able to kill 9 people and wound right around 29. That's in 32 seconds. So just a quick little news snippet I'm going to play real fast for you.
Now we're going to go to the shooting in Dayton. New video this morning shows the terror inside the bar where the shooter was heading when police gunned him down. Authorities there are still searching for answers, trying to figure out why the gunman murdered 9 people, including his own sister. Eva Pilgrim is in Dayton with the latest. Good morning, Eva.
Good morning, Michael. You can see the memorial here growing. Those terrifying moments, that shooter just steps from getting inside that bar.
Moments of terror. Chilling new video from inside a bar that shows the moment that gunman tried to get inside. Surveillance video showing people early morning scrambling for their lives, ducking into that bar to get away from 24-year-old Connor Betts. Police shooting him right by the entrance.
We have looked like 9 or 10 shots.
Dylan Arnold was trying to walk out of the bar as the shooter was rushing the door.
You think you have time to react. You're going to do something cool, something macho, but you don't.
In this video, you'll see as he's flung across the room. Dylan says the person who pushed him back, saving his life, the bouncer, Jeremy Ganger, seen here, crouched by the door.
He stood there. He was just a little off to the side, just getting people in. He kept looking around the corner, his main goal was to get as many people in the club. If he wasn't there, and especially if the officers weren't there, I know I'd be gone.
The shooter able to kill.
Okay, so good enough on that. I could play that video in a multitude of different spots in this presentation that we do. One thing that I hope that you caught, or one thing that I hope you were able to hear, was when they interviewed the guy named Dylan, and he had talked about everybody thinks that when it happens, they're going to do something, whether it's cool or macho, maybe not that, that was some bravado from, or machismo from our friend there, Dylan. But what if your idea is, man, if that ever happens, I'm just going to run. I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do that. The fact of the matter is just as he pointed out to us, if you're not practicing it, if you're not doing it, you will not do it. It's just that simple. It will not happen. So it's important to keep in mind that if we are going to do this, if something is going to happen, if you are going to find yourself in a situation where something like this may happen, you are going to be, you are going to be in a situation to where you are going to have to act. That's just going to be the nature of the beast. That's the way that things are going to have to work. So as we kind of get going and talking about this, one of the things that we're going to kind of really get into is, what can we do now? What can we do ahead of time? What can we take care of to better prepare ourselves for when the moment that happens? We're prepared. We're ready to go. We're going to be able to take care of what it is that we need to take care of. So for us, let's talk about organizational preparedness. This is if you are a administrator, if you are a human resources, or you're in charge of security for your agency, many of the top things for this isn't so much about what me as an individual can do, but what can we do as an organization to prepare for something like this? Well, first off, educate all staff on the early warning and indicative behaviors of violence. There's several of them. We use something called a pathway to violence to help us kind of understand where someone is along this path. Again, this education aspect, we can help you do that. This is something that we are able to do as well. This is something that is offered through our office, and we will come in and put that training on to help you understand and educate staff on what's going on. I tell people all the time, the way that it is, alone, we can do so little, but together, everyone can do more. If I'm the only one as an HR individual, or I'm the only one as an administrator who is supposed to be vetting through this and doing these sort of things, I'm really doing a disservice to not only myself, but to everyone else. I tell people all the time, many hands make light work. So if I have one set of eyes that I know as the administrator I'm looking for, but I can teach my employees, and let's say maybe I have 10 employees, maybe I have hundreds, maybe I'm at like the hospital and there's over 3,500 employees. That's that many more sets of eyes. That's that many more individuals that can catch something that maybe we didn't. So that's why that education element's important. The next is to develop programs that promote a climate of communication. These are simple. Having morale boosters to where, hey, look, if you see something, come up to staff and say something. Putting things on your whether you have an intranet or a box around your facility that says, hey, if you see something, hey, this is anonymous, just put it in here and we'll vet it and we'll take care of it. Hey, if anybody has anything that they want to say, I've got an open door policy on the things that we've educated you on. So develop something. The box is thinking outside the box is promoted. It is, is encouraged. So conduct drills, tabletop exercises, things that allow the staff to be empowered to sound the alarm, empowered to feel like they have a stake in not only their safety, but the organization's safety. And then to train. This is one of those things that you can't do enough of. And just like my friend Dylan said in that last video, everyone thinks that these things are all just going to happen when it hits the fan. what we see, what we know, what science has told us, what psychology has told us, and quite frankly, what real life just told us, that doesn't happen. You've got to train for these situations. So again, I kind of talk about that strength in numbers again. I cannot reiterate that enough in saying that how important that really is. Again, by ourselves, we're in a spot where it's tough to do anything. You know, it can be overwhelming. It can be too much for us. But together we're strong. Together we are many, and together we are difficult to take down. So let's talk about individuals. So what we teach here, there's two different methodologies. The FBI promotes something called Run, Hide, and Fight. Alice, which is a nationally syndicated program, they teach something called Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Contain, Evacuate. Again, there's no quiz on this, so no one's going to get tested on what Alice meant. But I just want you to know that even though these are the two leading really curriculums out there, in essence, they're the same thing. So the first thing that we teach, the absolute we consider to be imperative, is that if escape is an option, you have got to get out of there. And I'll break each one of these down here in a second in these additional slides. So don't fret if you don't think that I got to enough here. Lock down or hide. If a secure path or an exit site's not a certainty, and that's a key word there, and we'll get to that a little bit more here in just a second. But if you don't know where the shooter is at, you really don't know what your escape route is, especially if it includes not going out a window or something like that that immediately gets you out into the open. If you have to go out to the unknown to escape, and we don't know where that shooter is, sometimes the best thing to do is to lock down and fight. And I don't like this word. Alice makes this sound better. They call it counter. Not here to teach anyone to be this lethal ninja or Chuck Norris or anything like that. Really counters the word that we want to look for here, and it's that when you're faced with imminent danger, you do something. Whether it's some sort of movement, it's throwing something, doing whatever else it is, and we'll talk about that here in a second. So to run, always, just like we see all the time. I tell people this all the time. My good brothers at the fire service who, we don't ever like as police officers to admit that they have one-upped us on something, but they have, and it's not their chili recipes. It's the way that they do safety. So if you think about the last time someone died in like a school fire or a business fire or something like that, you'd have to think really, really far back between fire code, between, evacuation plans, safety plans, whatever else it is. Really, it's difficult to say that, those things out there, we don't see it very often. Now, if I asked you when the last time someone died in an active shooter incident was, you would probably be able to recall that yourself just off a basic news episode. So the best thing to do is to have an evacuation plan, model it after the fire department. Again, the same exit's not going to necessarily work, but knowing where those exits are, making sure people have a path in mind for escape, it is the best option. And as you can flee, let people know as you're going, hey, this is what's going on. Don't go this way, whatever it may be, but only if you can. Okay. Only if you can. We don't want you to stop and take time to do that. Other people will be safer when you get out and you make contact with someone. Don't sit and think, I need to save this person. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. The most important thing you can do is to get out of there, not allow additional people to be hurt, and get help there fast. So I talked about it a little bit. If you don't know where the threat is, don't evacuate. Leave your possessions, okay? If your phone can go in your pocket, great. Don't worry about a purse. Don't worry about your laptop bag, a book bag, a coat, whatever else it is. All of that will be taken care of. All of that will get fixed. Don't carry anything with you. All that does is it keeps time. Another thing I want you to think about is to keep something between you. And that's that kind of concealment cover option. When you're running, when you're moving, when you're trying to get out of here, keep things in between you in a direct line of sight. So if you're in a hallway, that can be a little bit difficult, but maybe you can get to an area where there's like a long counter or there's something else and you can crawl along that. The more that you can keep yourself out of that line of sight, the better. And the last thing is obviously practice, practice, practice. No plan is silly. I'm telling you that. If you have a plan, you're one up on anybody else who doesn't have a plan, even if that plan doesn't sound like it's that great of a plan. That's how important it is. Practice, practice, practice. So to hide, this may be the best thing that you can do, depending on the size of your area, all of those things. This may be the best way that you can. Quietly lock and secure the door. If you work in an area where you can shut your door and it can be locked and someone can knock, by all means, do it. Make it a culture to where doors are locked. It's hard to get into these places. These things matter. Put as much furniture, anything you can to barricade those doors, anything you can that makes it harder and takes more time. If it's hard for me to get in, if it takes more time for me to get in, to get to you, that's a problem, because like I told you, less than 5 minutes, 70% of the time, or almost 70% of the time, over a third of the time, it's less than 2 minutes. If I can make it hard for you to get to me, how much time is that adding to them? How much time is that putting in? They don't have time to fool with you. You're the tough person to kill. They're going to go find someone else who didn't plan, or someone else who may not have put as much into it as you can. Stay out of the line of sight. Stay out of the line of sight. The biggest thing that we see, and I'll hit this here in a bit, is freezing. We can't do that. You've got to hide yourself, make it difficult to see. The days of us teaching kids to get underneath desks and turn out the lights are long gone. You are proactive in your survival, and think outside the box. I've used things such as electrical cords. We do things, whether it's at schools or businesses. I found things as simple as, an electrical cord or a cord off something that I could yank real fast, and I could make it in fashion into something to tie a door down. The only thing that limits you in how you barricade yourself is your imagination. So if the room is being breached, obtain an improvised weapon while hiding. Maybe it's a stapler. Maybe it's, I don't know. I've seen some huge tape rolls, whatever else it is, something. Get out of the line of sight as possible, as much as you can. All right. Your goal is to obtain cover while bringing the attacker into your circle of violence. You want to be somewhere where they can't see you, where they can't do it, where you have home field advantage. That's what you want to be doing. You need to be ready to take lethal action if you're capable. If not, it's okay. I tell people this all the time. And statistics show that a targeted shooter, an act of targeted violence, these individuals shoot with almost 70% plus accuracy. The reason behind that, while a police officer may shoot with 20% and have spent most of their life training, why is that? Well, the answer to that question is this. Most of the time in these incidents, there was no plan. There was no hiding. They stood, they froze, they didn't know what to do. It's not hard to do that. It is hard to shoot a moving target. One of the things we do when we come in and provide training is this, and you can do it with people that you have around you at your office right now. Have somebody stand still, throw a beanbag at them. It's not hard to hit them. Have them move side to side, run side to side as they're trying to get down a hallway and try to hit them. It's much, much more difficult, okay? Those are the things that I want you to think about. So last thing I want to kind of touch base on, I want to make sure, because I know time's limited, I want to be able to answer some questions if I can, is law enforcement arrival. When law enforcement comes, they may or may not be in uniform. They may be in a full dress uniform, maybe plain clothes, it may be a SWAT kit. Okay, we don't know. When we get that call, everybody's coming when they go. Police officers are trained that we will bypass the wounded. Now, I don't say that because I want you to think, oh, wow, these heartless guys, these heartless girls. No, when there is a threat, we know that the number one thing that we have to do is to eliminate that threat. That's what has to be. Wounded people are just going to continue to pile up if we do not get to the threat. At that point, when the threat's dealt with, then we can get to the wounded. It's going to be forceful. Imagine walking into a room of absolute chaos and not having a clue who's good or who's bad. They're going to tell you what to do. Do it. Just do it. I know it's shell shock. I know it's tough. But they will make their identity known. They will be forceful. And it's not anything that's mean or rude or anything else. It's a chaotic environment and control has to be taken. So another thing is just a few other tips is that if you do find yourself in a situation, don't attempt to reach out for law enforcement, grabbing them or whatever else that it is that you can do. We don't know that. Now, again, we're all human beings, right? When somebody's hurt or something's happening, things are going to happen. We get that. But be mindful that when they come in, there's a job to be done. Your hands clear, empty, and visible when you know that it's a police officer. They're going to give you a command. Hey, let me see your hands. Do this. Go to the ground. Whatever it may be. Comply. Listen. Do that. It just shows them. It shows those officers who are responding who we need to deal with and who we don't. If you're able to, supply arriving law enforcement with information. The individual went this way. This is the way they look. This is what's going on. This is how it is. Use that help. Call 911 if you're in a secure place. Make sure that by calling, you don't call attention to yourself. It goes back to that thing earlier. We don't want to be seen. We don't want to know that you're there. The more that you are a hidden target, the more likely you are to survive. And then prepare emergency information, quick reference guides. And we talk about that more on the administrative side when we come in and put on trainings. So last but not least, I'm going to roll this up real fast for everybody. Considerations. Conduct a comprehensive threat assessment. We do that here at the Sheriff's Office. Doesn't matter where you're located, what police jurisdiction you're located. If you are in Wayne County, we will come and do this for you. Sheriff Retter is a staunch supporter of proactive law enforcement and preventing things before they happen. Partner with a local law enforcement to aid you in completing these assessments. We'll do this. Our assessments are absolutely thorough. We do it from the security of a building all the way looking through your policies and procedures to how those can be rectified or solidified. And then we also will put on training for your staff. Understand that law enforcement, like law enforcement, coworkers are most often willing to die for their friends and associates. In the application of this plan, we asking them to live by implementing the strategies we put here. Don't go down with the ship. Don't do that. That doesn't save anyone. It's an unnecessary loss of life. In the instance that something happens, in the instance that something is going on, get out, hide, call the police, do whatever you can to get help and keep yourself safe. That's how we limit the damage. That's how we make this impact less impactful, and that's how we make a difference. So closing it out, prevention can be a reality. I just recently put on a presentation for a threat assessment in Washington, D.C. At the National Sheriff's Association. And I told a large group of sheriffs and things the same thing. This is sort of novel, but law enforcement, we're going to catch up to our brothers in red. We're going to catch up to those firefighters, and that prevention can be a reality, just as you've seen in fire service, just as you've seen in the other things that we do. The difference is that we've got to do it. And there's no way as a law enforcement agency that we can do this unless you invite us in, unless you help us do that. There's only one way to educate people, and those are people who want to be educated. So by all means, please call us in. Let us know if there's anything that we can do for you. Next slide here that you see is my email, and then also my partner Brandon Croft's email. You can always call the Sheriff's Office to speak with us. But again, that's kind of going along those lines of where we were talking about. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I tried to keep it underneath that 12:30 button to make sure everybody could get out of here. But again, I'm here. I'm more than happy to answer questions if anyone has any. And thank you very much for the opportunity today.
Thank you so much. That was a lot of really great information in a short amount of time. I think you did wonderfully.
Thank you.
If anyone has any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat box. And while we're waiting on you to do that, I wanted to reiterate is, so your offer to work with any company or organization in Wayne County, correct? Whether it's
Yes,
in the city limits or not.
It does not matter. The initiative through Sheriff Retter is community safety for all in the community.
Great. And then I know you said that typically to have something like this done, it costs a lot of money, and that
Yeah.
you all did that for the schools. Is there a cost associated to a business or an organization to have you come in?
No, there's not. Sheriff Retter provides us as a community service through his office, free of charge. And the only thing that we may have to work with that a private contractor doesn't have to work with is that just make sure we have time. So we might
Right.
organize it out a little bit and have to be flexible with that. But no, it's free of charge. We've actually taken care of several large manufacturing industries here within our community, and we've done those free of charge as well. And it is Sheriff Ryder's initiative to continue to do that.
That's awesome. So a question that I had as you were talking, and especially about the fight, and if you have the capability of doing so, what is the recommended protocol for companies and who have employees with license to carry? Do you recommend a no weapon policy, or do you recommend allowing those individuals to carry?
For us, we generally make the recommendation to the company or the facility that they need to check with their insurance companies. They need to check with those individuals to see what kind of limitations would be put on them if they did allow that. If it is something that is permissible, liability wise, that's going to take care of them for their insurance and everything else, then absolutely, we're all for people being as trained as much as they can. In fact, through our initiative, we will even help to train those individuals who have those firearms.
That's awesome. Okay. Any other questions before we close out? Well, again, I want to thank you so much for your time in this educational session, as well as your offer to help our businesses be as safe as possible. So we will continue to promote this probably on our website. We definitely will get this session put up on YouTube and share that out for those that weren't able to take the time today to tune in. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out directly to you, correct?
Absolutely, yes. And do not hesitate, no matter when it is. We're always happy to help, always happy to be there. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity. I look forward to being a part of that. I know I spoke with Roxy earlier, and we're going to provide some information for her as well. So again, thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you.
You too. Everyone have a great day.